Here, in the vast ancient landscapes of Africa, a truly monumental event is unfolding. It is a process so slow that a human lifetime is but a fleeting moment in its story, yet its power is immense enough to tear a continent apart. We are talking about the East African Rift, a gigantic crack in the Earth's surface. This remarkable feature stretches for thousands of kilometers, from the dusty plains of Ethiopia in the north, all the way down to Mozambique in the south. It is here that the very ground beneath our feet is being pulled in two different directions. A quiet but relentless separation that has been happening for millions of years. Imagine the African continent not as one solid piece, but as two giant sections of land. Geologists call these the Nubian plate, which makes up most of Africa, and the smaller Somali plate to the east. These two colossal plates are slowly but surely drifting away from one another. The rift is the visible evidence of this grand separation. In some places, it appears as a series of deep valleys and steep cliffs, while in others, it is marked by magnificent volcanoes and shimmering lakes. This is not just a crack in the ground. It is the birthplace of a new geological future, a process that is actively reshaping our world. The scale of this geological drama is almost impossible to comprehend. The rift system is a network of fractures and faults, a zone of weakness where the Earth's crust has been stretched thin, like dough being pulled apart. Over a span of roughly 25 million years, these forces have been at work, creating the stunning scenery we see today. The valley floor has dropped, forming a long, wide trench that cuts a path through the continent. It is a place of constant change, where the planet's inner turmoil becomes visible on its surface, reminding us of the powerful forces that are always in motion deep within the Earth. For the animals and people who call this region home, the rift is simply a part of their world. It is a landscape of breathtaking beauty and immense natural wealth, but also one of potential hazard. The same forces that create majestic mountains and fertile soils also bring the threat of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Life here has always adapted to the whims of the land. Understanding this colossal rift is to understand not only the past of our planet, but also to catch a glimpse of its very distant and very different future. It is a story of creation, written in stone and fire. To understand how a landmass as enormous as Africa can begin to split, we must look deep beneath the surface. The Earth's crust is not a single solid shell. Instead, it is made of massive interlocking pieces called tectonic plates, which float upon a sea of hot molten rock, known as the mantle. Here, in eastern Africa, a plume of superheated magma is rising from deep within the Earth. This upward pressure pushes on the lithosphere, the rigid outer layer of our planet, causing it to bulge, stretch, and eventually to fracture. This process is called continental rifting. Think of it like stretching a piece of warm toffee. As you pull it from both ends, it becomes thinner and weaker in the middle until it finally starts to tear. The same thing is happening to the African continent. The immense pressure from the rising magma below is forcing the Nubian and Somali plates to move apart. This movement is incredibly slow, happening at a rate of only a few millimeters each year, about the same speed at which our fingernails grow. Yet, over the vast expanse of geological time, these tiny movements add up to create the immense rift valley we see today. This stretching and thinning of the crust creates a series of cracks, or faults. As the land pulls apart, huge blocks of rock between these faults collapse downwards, forming the deep, wide valleys that characterize the rift. These valleys are often flanked by steep escarpments or cliffs that rise dramatically from the valley floor. It is a landscape sculpted by immense tension. The process is not a smooth one. It happens in fits and starts, with the built-up stress being released through earthquakes. These tremors are a constant reminder of the powerful forces at play just beneath the surface. At the northernmost point of the rift lies a particularly special place, the Afar Triple Junction. This is a unique geological hotspot in Ethiopia, where three tectonic plates, the African, the Somali, and the Arabian plates, are all pulling away from each other. Here, the crust is stretched so thin that new oceanic crust is beginning to form. Hot magma erupts onto the surface, cools and solidifies, creating rock that is more like the floor of an ocean than the rock of a continent. The Afar region provides a living laboratory, showing us precisely how a new ocean is born from the slow, powerful tearing of the land. The East African Rift is not a single straight line. Instead, it divides into two main arms or branches as it makes its way south. These are known as the Eastern Rift and the Western Rift, and each has its own distinct character. The Eastern Rift carves its path through Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania. This branch is famous for its powerful volcanic activity. It is home to some of Africa's most iconic peaks, including the dormant giants of Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Kenya. These magnificent volcanoes are a direct result of the rifting process, formed by magma pushing its way up through the weakened crust. The Eastern Rift is also dotted with a series of unique, shallow lakes. Lakes like Turkana in Kenya and Natron in Tanzania are highly alkaline, meaning they have a high concentration of salts. This unusual chemistry is caused by volcanic ash washing into the water and a high rate of evaporation under the hot African sun. While inhospitable to many forms of life, these lakes provide a perfect breeding ground for certain species, most notably the lesser flamingo, which gathers here in spectacular numbers. The landscape of the Eastern Rift is a testament to the interplay between fire and water, a place of stark and dramatic beauty. To the west, the second branch tells a slightly different story. The Western Rift, also known as the Albertine Rift, is bordered by some of the deepest and largest freshwater lakes in the world. Here we find Lake Tanganyika, the world's second deepest lake, as well as Lake Kivu and Lake Albert. These vast bodies of water have filled the deep depressions created as the continental crust has sunk. While this branch has fewer active volcanoes than its eastern counterpart, it is a region of significant seismic activity, with frequent earthquakes shaking the ground as the rift continues to widen. The Western Rift is a haven for biodiversity. Its deep, ancient lakes are home to an incredible array of fish species, many of which are found nowhere else on Earth. The mountains that rise alongside the rift are cloaked in lush rainforests, providing a sanctuary for some of Africa's most endangered wildlife, including the magnificent mountain gorilla. Both branches of the rift, though different in their features, are part of the same grand narrative. They are two sides of the same coin, each showcasing the incredible power of our planet to create new worlds and new ecosystems through a process of slow, inexorable division. What does the future hold for this slowly splitting continent? If the rifting process continues, as geologists predict it will, the consequences will be truly transformative. Over millions of years, the Rift Valley will continue to widen and sink lower. Eventually, it will drop below sea level. At that point, the waters of the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean will flood into the newly formed basin, creating a long, narrow sea that will sever Eastern Africa from the rest of the continent. A new ocean will be born, and the map of the world will be forever changed. This geological separation would create a new, smaller continent, a massive island composed of what is now Somalia and parts of Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania. This new landmass would drift away into the Indian Ocean. For a number of countries that are currently landlocked, this would be a monumental shift. Nations like Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and Malawi would suddenly find themselves with new coastlines. This could dramatically alter their economies, opening up new opportunities for trade, shipping, and fishing industries, and connecting them to the world in a way that was never before possible. The environmental changes would be just as profound. The creation of a new ocean would alter weather patterns across the region, likely making the new coastal areas more humid and changing where and when rain falls. Terrestrial ecosystems like savannas and forests that once filled the valley would be replaced by vibrant marine environments. New coral reefs could flourish in the warm, shallow waters, and the new sea would teem with life. However, this transformation would also lead to loss. Many land-dwelling species unable to adapt or migrate would face extinction, a stark reminder that creation and destruction often go hand in hand. Of course, this future is tens of millions of years away, but the process has already begun, and it brings more immediate challenges. The increasing tectonic activity means that earthquakes and volcanic eruptions will become more common, posing a significant risk to the millions of people who live within the Rift Valley. Homes, roads, and entire communities could be threatened. The Great East African Rift is a powerful illustration of our planet's dynamic nature. It is a slow-motion spectacle of geology in action, one that will ultimately give birth to a new ocean and redefine the very shape of Africa.